All right, I'm sitting here with Max Winkler and Michael Angarano. How'd I do?
That's perfect.
Pretty good.
Nailed it.
Writer, director, and star of the film Ceremony. Correct? Okay. I'm just going to get it out of the way right now. This is Henry Winkler's kid. Big deal for me because the Fonz was a huge part of my childhood. That and then Chachi and Joni Loves Chachi.
Sure.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You weren't even around when I was when we were buying Fonzie T-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
So, needless to say, you grew up in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
yes.
With your dad, did you grow up being around sets and stuff from the very beginning?
Yeah, a fair amount. There was always sort of a very separate sort of world between my dad's work and our family life. But I was always sort of around it and always took a real sort of fascination in it, and would make sort of a million kind of short films in my house and really sort of make a wreck of everything. And yeah.
And that was tolerated?
Yeah, it was. I would have to frequently sort of cast both parents a lot in dual roles, and they were always very patient with me.
Right, so it was, in a way it was encouraged. I guess your dad didn't
he was
have a
very
good experience about it, and it's not like he didn't want you to go into this world.
Yeah, I think he would have rather me had been a lawyer or a doctor or something like that, but I think he was tolerant. He knew how bad. I think he could see it was probably one of the only things I was good at. I really wasn't good at anything else. I wasn't very good at school, and so instead of writing papers, I would always try to make movies and use that as it didn't really work. And so I think he understood that I sort of needed to do this for any sort of shot at remote success
or livelihood.
Happiness or livelihood. Yeah.
Not living in the basement of your parents' house forever.
Yeah.
And what about you, Michael? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in New York. I was born in Brooklyn and raised in Staten Island, and started acting very young when I was 5 and a half. And I modeled for like the first 6 months, and then did so many commercials, and then eventually went to California and went out for pilot season and did that for like 3 or 4 years. And then when I was 12, we moved out to California, and then remained bi-coastal up until about a year ago, where we just started to rent our house on Staten Island.
Right. Oh, really?
Yeah.
You had a big show. Weren't you a Disney kid or?
No, I was on. I never. I did a Disney movie, but I wasn't. I was on Will and Grace when I was 14. What a terrible sound.
Are they doing construction here in Toronto? I don't know.
It's the espresso construction.
Yeah, espresso construction.
That's what that is. Okay.
But yeah, so it was a show that got me out to California at first. A show called Cover Me on the USA Network.
Cover Me, right?
Yeah,
okay.
And it was funny because we relocated my entire 6-person family, and the show filmed in San Diego. So it was like I wasn't even there for the first 2 years.
There.
Yeah.
Now, did you guys meet prior, just being in L.A. in and around? Or?
No, we'd never met before. I'd been sort of a tremendous fan of Michael's for a period of time, seeing him in movies and loving him. And when it came time to sort of go out with this script that I knew I really wanted to make, everyone had sort of immediately agreed that Michael would be sort of our best possible person to go to, and so we went to him, right away, and we met at a Jerry's Deli in where was it?
I remember what that was. Last night I said it was Chateau Marmont, but I think it was the second meeting.
No, it was our first meeting. It was at Jerry's Deli, and we met, and we had a really sort of great conversation. And between then and the movie actually getting made, there was a few different sort of reincarnations of the cast and the movie, and we ended up hanging out a lot together and really sort of getting to know each other and becoming quite good friends. And by the time we started shooting, we really had a really quick sort of shorthand. It was very sort of helpful.
And you went to SC Film School.
I did,
and
yes.
Actually went through that whole program and have been doing this. This isn't your first film. I know you've done other things before. But is his, in the story, it's about a young guy who's trying to figure out, he's kind of very romantic, obviously, and very literary, well-read and passionate, and is Michael kind of playing the movie star version of you?
Probably. I mean, it's not. It was a pretty hard representation. I mean, people would sort of mistake us a lot on set. People would call the main character's name Sam Max, and they'd call me Mike, and they'd call him Max. I mean, it was a little bit of a blur.
His friends actually, because now we know each other so well that most of his friends are now my friends, and people have said to me and to him or to both of us that they thought I was doing like a blatant impression of Max, and that was not either of our intentions.
Which I didn't. Yeah, I didn't know that. Michael did play a joke on me right before we started shooting. He was coming out to New York. He had told me that he had dyed his hair my color, and that there was nothing I could do to change it.
Yeah, I wanted to give him his first real challenge.
Color
yeah,
too. Like,
it is
that's
tough.
Specific.
Yeah, I spent hours and hours and hours with my
That's
colorist to
neat.
get this
That's called
just
genetics, right?
Yeah, it's actually called Stacy Winkler.
Stacy Winkler.
That's
Your
my
mom,
mother.
yeah.
Yeah, but you know, the character, you know, the movie's about sort of looking back on that period of your life, you know, when you're, you know, 22 or 23 and you think you're the most important person in the world, and you think that everything you feel is more important than what anyone else has felt, and no one has known a love or a heartbreak like you have, and then you look back on that period of yourself, you know, a couple of years later, and you want to slap that part of yourself, you know, very hard if you could, and you're very embarrassed by it.
It's the most impressionable age, I feel, where it's the age where you watch whatever movie you watch or whatever book you read or whoever you speak to, whoever you think is you know, not the most popular, but the one who relates most to you, I feel, whether it be F. Scott Fitzgerald or J.D. Salinger or, you know, or like Jack Kerouac.
But he probably doesn't even understand the books correctly. You know, he'll read, like, he'll take like the broadest themes and apply that to his life, but like really can't even like wrap his head around. He's so self-involved at this period that he could never even begin to sort of pick up the minutia of it, or like the fact that it's actually sort of contradictory or something like that.
And it's also because he you know, he's probably a guy who has a lack of experience. He hasn't had a true, you know, life-changing experience happen to him, a tragedy or like getting his heart broken or any kind of great success or great failure. He hasn't really done anything.
He's just a child, you know, he's just a child.
Do you guys feel out of that phase in your life? Because I think of you as really young, or do you feel like you're in that?
I probably will look back on this interview in 4 years and feel the same way I feel looking back on.
I'm gonna watch this interview tomorrow and think how terribly delusional I look and I am and act.
I feel young, you know. I feel very young, but I also feel slightly sort of like I'm coming to terms a little bit more with the world and other people and not just myself. And
I should explain this a little bit. Ceremony is the ceremony title because it takes place over a weekend for a wedding, and your character Sam is we don't know really why he's driving on this road trip with a friend, and we soon find out that he's going to kind of recapture an affair basically with Uma Thurman, who's about to marry someone else. So Uma Thurman, of course, the goddess of all time, right? I mean, just no one looks like her and probably ever will again.
No.
What do you think her attraction is to Sam?
I think, you know, the character, I mean, I think she's a very, very romantic person who's also at sort of a turning point in her life where she's lived her life sort of flitting around a little bit and experiencing these things and these moments and these romantic sort of situations with people, and a real sort of free spirit and somebody who sort of thinks, doesn't think sometimes before she acts. And I think the love that Mike's character gives her is that purest form of love that, you know, is beyond flattering, that you sort of don't get unless you're that age where you really believe that this is the beginning and the end, and it's such a pure kind of love that, you know, sadly doesn't go away, I don't think, as you get older, but I think you end up sort of meeting in the middle a little bit more. And I think she's, the character's maybe a little nuts too. You know, I think she's
definitely, I mean, it's touched on in the script only lightly, really, but it's definitely there. And whatever has, you know, whatever her childhood has entailed has probably deeply affected her personality and why she does what she does. So the fact that, you know, this young, she takes care of things. She loves animals. She loves love. That's what it is. She's not a person who's based in reality. She is in her own aloof world. And
the movie's she's kind of growing up in the movie too, and realizing that she can't play with fire like this because she sees what she's done to this young kid.
It's the same thing that he learns, in the sense that he was treating his best friend so, you know, so carelessly, and so.
He's a great actor too, that kid.
Reese Thompson is fantastic in it.
And us Lee Pace,
right?
Amazing. I mean, he was great as the pompous, and your scenes with him in the buggy were excellent.
But Lee was pitch perfect. It's amazing that he's not from England. You would think he's from Oklahoma.
I almost didn't recognize him.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, no, people don't.
Who is that? He looks familiar, but I can't really place it because the beard and just the accent and everything. So you're up here with it. How is it being? This is your first time in Toronto?
Yeah, it's
right?
my first movie and the first time at Toronto, and so it's really, I mean, the energy here is amazing, and I think the people really love movies, which is the best place you could ever be around.
Yeah.
You know, with some of the anxiety that probably comes from showing your first movie, to do it here feels probably much better than at the ArcLight. I think, you know, in Los Angeles,
Right.
where people, you know, are very sort of critical and. Probably my friends. You know, it's really great to be here. You know, I felt like the movie we just premiered last night, and I think the reception was really nice from what I hear, and you know, it feels good. I feel good.
It's great. And what else are you doing, Michael?
After Ceremony, I did these two films. The first one is called Haywire. It's a Steven Soderbergh movie. And then I did a movie with a movie called Homework that a guy named Gavin Wyson wrote and directed. Another first-time director, really great script, really great guy. And I'm about to go do this movie called Red State that Kevin Smith wrote and is going to direct. And that's going to happen less than a month, so it's exciting.
Okay, so you're busy working. And for you, you're continuing to. Are you writing something right now, or?
Yeah, I'm writing something now. I think the goal is just to keep working quickly, and I think I do better working than I do in the downtime. So as much as I can work, while I have it in me, I'd love to do it.
Yeah. And how is what kind of advice would you have for kids? I mean, obviously, you guys are coming at it from two different areas. I mean, you're kind of, you have a huge history in the business and familiarity with it, and you had none really in Long Island. I mean, what is it kind of that you would say to kids like in high school now, kind of wanting and looking at this film and looking at you certainly, and you as well, like, that's what I want to do.
It's funny. I just my father, you know, grew up in Brooklyn his whole life, and he's 50 right now, and he just had this thing. Max and I were going to go on a flight, and my dad said, I had to call your mother because, you know, like everybody at the time, I thought I was Fonzie when I was in high school, and so the fact that I'm setting my son off with Fonzie's son onto, you know, a movie that my son started and his son wrote. The fact that I was in a cafeteria in Bensonhurst in 1976 and he was Fonzie. The fact that 40, 50, 20 years, 30 years later, like, anything is happening. Yeah. Like, anything could, you know, happen.
It's amazing to see because I guess that was a different time, you know, with channel. There was like 3 channels, I guess, and like we went to go get lunch. He was here for the premiere, which was amazing. And there was literally a riot in the streets. There was probably 500 people that mobbed him and
it's
surrounded him.
It's still on in Canada, I'm sure.
It's
right?
insane. It was truly crazy. I sometimes forget about it because we live in LA and everyone is famous there, you know, and everyone and it's amazing. I mean, it really is crazy to see how many people sort of have this strong connection with him.
How does
makes
he deal
me
with
happy.
It? Is he happy with it?
He deals with it the most graceful, beautiful, incredible, light. I couldn't even begin to describe how, you know, thoughtful and amazing he is with every single person.
Yeah, and his jacket's like, isn't the jacket
Smithsonian.
like Smithsonian?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, Max, Michael, always good to see you
It's really
guys.
a pleasure.
Really nice to meet you. I look forward to more things to come, and
Thank you.
we certainly will see you again.